Hey, World Entertainment, and right on the heels of them dropping an 8-minute clip of War of the Rohirrim, we now have the first official reactions to the movie from a bunch of people who, for the majority, we've never heard of, never even heard of their sites, anything like that. But naturally, because it's girl boss and all that type of stuff, they're the very people you would expect to see coming in and praising the film. And that's exactly what has happened. So they're kind of falling into that, oh, it's modern day, it's for modern audience, blah blah blah, we love it, of course we will. Where the rest of us, the true fans of the books and the original trilogy and stuff, are all going, oof, we know what this is going to be. We were all excited, and then we heard what the movie actually was, and it started getting a bit tepid on that front. And then more information came out, and then the trailers came out. It was kind of like, uh-oh. And then we've started to hear from the likes of Nerdrotic and stuff, who have now managed to see it, and they flat out said, yeah, they've managed to Rings of Power this thing, and it's everything you feared it would be. But we're still going to have a look at the reviews. Now, overall, they're all positive. There are a couple that aren't positive, or at least too positive. They still find a couple of things in there to like, which is fine. Some of them kind of hint at things, like, or I should say praise things, that doesn't particularly make sense to praise, being the fact that it's an animated movie. And a lot of them kind of just go into that real shilly type of trope of just overpraising it. But we know what it's going to be because we've seen clips. There's clips out there now, clips like this.
You may wear a crown upon your head, but that does not make you a king. You were too much of a coward to face my father. So face me now.
Yeah, and they weren't the only clips, there are more. But you know yourself. But let's dive into this anyway and see what these people who we've never heard of talk about. The only one I recognise, at least the name of their site, is the Nerds of Colour. They're the only one that's popped up in this that I recognise. Everyone else I don't recognise. There's one guy that I think I recognise from something overpraising some bullshit movie or TV show, but I can't be 100% sure. But let's dive into these anyway. Oh, by the way, even some of them that give it the high praise, they do have one issue, and the issue is something that I think will affect the movie overall. So we'll dive into this. So the first one reads, War of the Rohirrim kicks all sorts of ass. This should be the future of the franchise, using animation to tell different stories in the world of Middle-earth. Helm Hammerhand is the baddest motherfucker who ever lived. Except we know that it's not his story. It's his unnamed daughter's story that they now have a name for. The next one, this is the Nerds of Colour one, reads as, The War of the Rohirrim is the best Lord of the Rings project we have seen since the original trilogy. It surpasses any live-action Lord of the Rings project made in the past decade, telling a beautiful, rich story of family, revenge, and legacy. A compelling Miyazaki-inspired fantasy. Now, I would love to go to the Nerd of Colour's channel and see what they think of Rings of Power, because I bet you they praise it. And now they're here saying this is the best thing in the past decade, which means they would have to not like Rings of Power. The next one says, The War of the Rohirrim is a roaring return to Middle-earth with gorgeous animation that wonderfully weaves Peter Jackson's cinematic vision through the artistry of anime. This is the Lord of the Rings like we've never seen before. Overly long, but feels so good to be back. Now this is the first one that hints at this about the length of the movie. Apparently this thing is like 2.5 hours long, and it's apparently it just kind of drags on, and you feel, from what we're hearing, you feel it. And this is one of the things they're going to see where a lot of them kind of start praising it, but say it's over long. I don't understand how you praise things and then go, but it runs too long. All of us who liked The Batman even said that. We said, yeah, it was a good 2-hour movie that, or 2.5-hour movie that went for an extra 45 minutes that shouldn't have. You know, we can all recognize where the movie should stop. Next one says, I really enjoyed Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. Epic, grand, mesmerizing. The anime style animation was exquisite. Felt so good returning to Middle Earth. I didn't realize how much I had missed it. One of my favorite films this year. So that's very high praise. Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim has glimpses of that Middle Earth magic, but proves that it can only be as powerful as the characters we follow, which are sadly unengaging. The intrigue in this story lacks surprise and it's got a lethargic pace. I was let down. So there's the first negative one, where they're saying it drags along, the characters are not engaging, and that's quite telling, seeing as they focused on this absolute no-named character who was mentioned in passing in the books, that they focused all their attention into making this character the big Will I Am and whatnot, and now you're seeing it's like it suffers because of that, because they try to make this character, they try to boost her up, and it fails at that. That's what that's saying there. This next one's a bit of a negative one as well. It says, I wish I liked Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim more, but mostly found it to be trite and mundane. Its spectacle is certainly compelling at times. Some great individual moments with wonderful animation and stirring music. On the whole, it left a lot to be desired. You have to read that last part carefully because for some reason they wrote the whole rather than on the whole. Next one says, set 183 years before Lord of the Rings trilogy, War of the Rohirrim is an engrossing, brutally violent spectacle. An animated epic with strong character depth that feels very much in the same world. Spectacular battle sequences and use of lore, with more than a few surprises as well. The battle sequences is funny. This is where some of this praise comes in, because it's like they're overpraising stuff that is animated. It's drawn. It's not actual actors doing it and stuff. And we'll see more weirdness when it comes to the battle sequences. The use of lore, well, if you're shoving in a character who had no name, no significance to the overall story of Lord of the Rings, no impact whatsoever, and you boost them up to the point of being a leader and stuff, that's kind of shitting on the lore rather than using the lore. As for the surprises, we know what some of the surprises are. One of them, of course, I suppose spoiler if you didn't know this, but I don't know how you didn't know it because they really start talking about it, was that Saruman is back. Christopher Lee's Saruman. Next one, War of the Rohirrim sports robust 2D animation, but the story doesn't justify the runtime. The action is well choreographed in an otherwise weightless battle with a lead character that deserves far more depth. So there's the one that you're just like, wait, what are you praising? He's talking about it was well choreographed. You can't choreograph animation because you're drawing it. So that part makes no sense. There's another one where you're hearing the runtime is a massive issue. And he's saying there as well that the story, and he even says the battles are pretty weightless and just, you know, there's not too much depth to it. There should be a lot more to it. This one, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, is a great addition to the iconic franchise. Perfect for families with teens and Tolkien fans. It has deeper exploration of lore, delivers an empowering story, offers up insane action, and features exciting cameos. Again, we know Saruman is in there, and I'm pretty sure a few others show up in there. Next one says, I'm sure it's blasphemous to some that I don't absolutely worship the Lord of the Rings series, but I still see the merit, and War of the Rohirrim absolutely worked for me. It's a perfect vehicle for lore fans, casual watchers, and anime enthusiasts. Visually stupendous. Now, this is the second one that's saying, oh, Tolkien fans, this is absolutely what you've been looking for. And yet, we've heard from Tolkien fans, like massive Tolkien fans, like Gary from Nerdrotic, who have seen it and have come out and said, this is not what Tolkien would have done. This sucks. And they've absolutely dropped the ball with it. So, yeah, they're kind of trying to push this a bit too much. Next one says, War of the Rohirrim is a fantastic journey back to Middle-earth, with an outstanding voice cast, dazzling animation, and superb directing from Kenji Kamamami. Probably butchered that. The film is an absolute must-watch on the big screen, with its epic action and battle sequences. I always find that strange when you get some people who say battle sequences and other type of sequences, they're so massive and grand, and the visuals are this and that and blah blah blah, and they go on and really hype it up. And then you get people who watch the exact same thing and say it's like lackluster, it's boring, it's like, and I'm specifically talking about scenes like what they're saying here, big action scenes. I always find that interesting. Next one, The War of the Rohirrim presents audiences with a stunning new chapter of Tolkien's time-honored dark fantasy world. Kenji, however you pronounce their second name, brings exciting new characters, action, and freshness to the franchise. It's not to be missed on the big screen. Now, this next one somewhat praises it, but then throws in one line that just absolutely says, this movie is in trouble. And you'll see what I mean. So he writes, The War of the Rohirrim is breathtaking on the big screen. Kenji Kamamami directs with cinematic scope, delivering thrilling battles and striking designs. Where it falls short is in its story, which fails to impress or deliver memorable characters. Now, right there, this guy has just said, the story is the weakest part of this. That's not what you want to hear, especially seeing as the story focuses on a character that was nameless and had no significance in the books. And that they focused everything onto that, and this guy's walking out going, it looks good, but the story, i.e. Hera, is pointless, worthless, and nothing delivers. So that tells you everything you need to know. That one line right there, where it falls short, is in its story. Out of everything else people have said, that's the one that you need to really focus on and go, oh. So these are just the first reactions. Again, they're from a bunch of people you've never heard of and stuff. So and this isn't on Rotten Tomatoes yet, so we'll wait and see what those type of reviews come out. Again, it's going to be more important what the audience thinks, the actual fans and the paying customer, because they're the only opinions you really kind of are more interested in. It's interesting to gauge what they all want to talk about, the critics and stuff. As you hear there, it seems to be all about the battles. Oh, the battles are spectacular. You notice not one of them mentioned the name Hera Hammerhand. Not one of them. Isn't that quite interesting? So we'll wait and see what the other reviews come out, and we'll wait and see what the movie's actually like when other people start seeing it. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.